Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. I'm just decorating for the holidays. You can see I'm very festive. I don't know where my Santa hat is. Like, normally I have this Santa hat that just seems to always be around all year round, and then this is a Shrek hat. I don't know why I have this, but okay. We're just gonna leave it on. It feels, I don't know, it's green. It feels festive. And yes, that is a custom little mostly okay stocking. I have that, but I can't find a Santa hat. So my favorite Christmas movie is The Santa Claus. The classic Tim Allen holiday movie where he scares Santa off his roof, sending him plummeting to his assumed death, puts on the magic pants so he doesn't continue shriveling in the cold, and unwittingly enters a contract that will, over the course of the following year, turn him into the jolliest man known to man. It's a beautiful story that I still look forward to watching every year with my parents. Yes, I'm an adult, why are you asking? But in my adulthood, another tradition has appeared. Every year my friends try to get together for something known as Tim Allen Night. It's a tradition one of my friends started with her friends in a small town and has just been exported to the different towns that all these people moved to. It feels very much like a cult and has nothing to do with actual love of Tim Allen himself. It exists purely to watch the Santa Claus. And sometimes the other Santa Claus media.
Tim Allen, Tim Allen, Tim Allen, Tim Allen, Tim Allen, Tim Allen.
So this past year, we decided to watch the Santa Clauses TV show, which is weird and not particularly memorable, and I don't like thinking about it. But then we decided to chase that with the Santa Claus 3. And I was positive that I had seen part 3 at some point, but either I didn't or my brain purged itself in self-defense because nothing prepared me for how horrific this piece of media truly is. I talked about Krampus a couple years ago, and I would argue some of the stuff that happens in the Santa Claus sequels is more horrific and horny. And Krampus has literal horns. We all watched in disbelief at the decisions this movie was making while already being in disbelief that this movie was even made. Part 2 certainly isn't a work of art, and it absolutely has its own horrors to provide.
I am Santa Claus. Boo! I think Santa feels a little buzz. Woo!
But it still feels like it's trying to be a movie, and it has like some actual conflicts that feel like they're attempting to work through them. Santa Claus 3 barely feels like a movie. It's like a bundle of ideas scotch taped together, all on the back of Martin Short and Alan Arkin. So it's taken me an entire year with another Tim Allen night looming in the horizon to work through the unusual nightmare that is Santa Claus 3. But I gotta imagine, if you really were Santa Claus trying to conceal the fact that you were just bouncing around the world in an evening while maintaining some manner of a public persona, you would turn to today's sponsor, Surfshark. With Surfshark VPN, you can connect to one of their thousands of different server locations so you can make your internet think you're in that location. So Santa does a little run from Australia to the UK in seconds, no one will be the wiser, his internet still thinks he's stateside with the fam. But ultra high-speed magic travel probably isn't an issue you're gonna run into. At least I don't think so. But let's say you want to watch one of the most important holiday movies that exists that I love dearly, Happiest Season, but oh no, it's not available where you live. Well, all you have to do is connect to a Canadian server location and boom, see why the world shipped Kristen Stewart with Aubrey Plaza over the intended love interest of Mackenzie Davis. But hey, you guys in the US do have Carol, so I know what I'll be doing later. Surfshark is a daily use tool for me, whether it's watching things on streaming services that aren't available where I live, and just when I have to look up some weird things for these videos, you know? I really don't like it when my ads start to reflect the weird things I look up from MILF Manor. Surfshark is super fast, secure, blocks unwanted ads, and if you're not completely satisfied, they offer a 30-day back money guarantee. And right now is the best time to get Surfshark. They have an exclusive holiday deal going on where you can get up to 6 months free by using code JEDI, so make sure to click the link in the description down below to try out Surfshark for yourself. So what is the Santa Claus 3? Well, let's do a little bit of a recap through the first 2 to see how we got here. I don't know if it's necessary, I just want to talk about them a little bit. Obviously the first one is Scott Calvin rejecting the fact that he's becoming the Santa Claus as a result of the Santa Claus. A literal legal clause which resulted in children around the world thinking that Santa Claus had an E at the end. No, that was just me? Okay. And after their magical night of delivering presents and visiting the North Pole, Scott still isn't convinced, but his son Charlie 100% believes it. And because Scott starts looking more and more like a dedicated Santa cosplayer, everyone assumes that he's playing into the Santa Claus delusion to try to earn the love of his child. Dark shit. This first movie was very focused on divorce and custody agreements and him being a bad dad so that his kid doesn't actually like him and likes the new stepdad Neil even more. It is oddly deep and I love it. The classic burning of the turkey scene. really beautiful story of this father learning to appreciate what really matters in life and valuing his child as an actual human being and not just a bargaining chip against his ex-wife. And most importantly, but probably not, those last two things were pretty important, reminding us all about the magic and joy we all start to lose the older we get. Yeah, obviously framed around Christmas, but still, Santa Claus 2 is unnecessary. It's 8 years later and Santa needs to take on a Mrs. Claus or he'll stop being Santa. Which really only led me to wonder what the hell happened to the last Santa Claus's Mrs. Claus. Rough time for women out there on the pole. You know, you get a husband, you get stuck up north away from all your friends and family, and then one night a year he gets to go on a worldwide milk and cookie bender. Unfair. I'm pretty sure it was in the show, which I really don't like thinking about, but I'm just gonna say it because someone will probably mention it. I'm pretty sure the show confirms that Scott and Carol are the first human Santa and Mrs. Claus, so it only would have happened once before and they would have been magical beings that retired, because apparently that's a thing you can do. I don't know, I hate it. But because he doesn't have a Mrs. Claus, he starts going through a desantification process back down to Scott Calvin the man, so he can lie a woman into love under false pretenses. Yeah, I'm stable, I have a really good job, we'll get to travel a lot, or at least I'll get to travel a lot. And this just started making me think about all sorts of dumb things, well, if he desantified, who would become the new Santa? How would you get a new Santa? Also, what would happen if a woman put on the magic Santa pants? I just don't like it when sequels make me question my childhood. Obviously, a lot more happens in this one, Charlie becomes a delinquent because his dad is never around, the classic story, deadbeat Santa dad, works one night a year and still can't be bothered to come to parent-teacher night. And that's too bad because it may have solved his problems a lot earlier because his new wife ends up being Charlie's principal. That is just a faux pas, Scott. I would actually say that this one has the larger horror element. While Scott's trying to get what is technically a passport marriage, a toy Santa is holding things down at the shop.
Children of the world don't deserve these presents. This Christmas, we're going to give those greedy, selfish little kids exactly what they deserve. Coal!
And he's just this plastic monstrosity that basically goes HAL 3000 to follow the rules. It's horrific. Just leave Bernard in charge. He's got this. Say Santa's doing some personal outreach work this holiday season. Instead we get a don't worry elves, Santa just got a lot of Botox. And this is the movie where we're introduced into the Council of Legendary Figures, which I think is dumb as hell. I'm watching a movie called The Santa Claus. I don't care about Mother Nature. I don't care about the Tooth Fairy. But the extra weird part, Father Time is played by Peter Boyle. And Peter Boyle was his boss in the first movie. Why did they do that?
Finished?
No. There are some, in my opinion, annoying, we'll say annoying theories that he was actually still Father Time while he was working with Scott, that he was the boss of this toy company to try to find the successor to Santa who wanted to retire. But you would never land on Scott Calvin, and if you say it was some kind of magical decision, you wouldn't have needed to set someone up in a toy factory to find him. It's just so stupid. Being Santa made Scott better, and he ended up being great at it, but he would never be the person you would openly pick for the role unless you were trying to teach him a lesson, because the lesson is where things get good. I don't know when the second season of this show is coming out, so it might already be out by the time you're watching this. I haven't watched it, and I don't really plan to, but the Santa Claus's show suggests that he and Carol, his Mrs. Claus, were chosen and destined for these roles. But I think that's dumb as hell, and they were wrong for doing it. No divine Santa selection. I'll take the retirement option that it was all planned to have him fall off the roof because, he does wave at the end, but this is so dumb. Do better. Anyways, that pretty much brings us to Santa Claus 3 after Scott once again learns the value of family and other things like that. The Council of Legendary Figures is back and they're dealing with the drama from Jack Frost trying to outshine Christmas and want to shut him down. I understand wanting your own holiday, Jack, but you can't just go around freezing volcanoes. But Santa himself, the man whose toes are being stepped on, isn't particularly concerned and gives Jack Frost the punishment of just helping out around the North Pole. Now, in terms of the other cast hijinks, there is no Bernard. Not even an acknowledgement of Bernard, as if they're mad that he didn't come back. And apparently he was willing to work a ridiculous schedule to be in this movie around his number shooting schedule, but then felt like they did a major disservice to his character and the story, so he backed out. It certainly doesn't bode well for what's coming. So we're just left with Curtis, played by Spencer Breslin, who is Abigail Abigail Breslin's brother, who is also in this movie. This whole movie is framed around Mrs. Claus telling the story of the hijinks of this Christmas to a class of elves that includes Abigail, who's asking the real questions like, hey, Mrs. Claus, isn't it weird as hell that you had to abandon your life to live in the North Pole away from all existing friends and family? This also came out the same year as Little Miss Sunshine and Air Buddy, so big year for her. Like, how do you even pick a winner? That was sarcasm. Obviously, it's Air Buddies. The horror in this always comes in weird ways, and it's really just that, like, the magic of the North Pole more often than not just feels like the horror of the North Pole. Like this horrific Santa Claus mouth fireplace. Oh god, it gets creepier. Then you just have things like Neil teaching elves yoga because apparently he got really spiritual in his psychiatry work.
Stress can reduce your life by hundreds of years.
The Easter Bunny just being horny as hell.
I'm built for speed and comfort.
And on top of whatever drama Jack Frost is gonna bring is a stress I completely forgot about. Mrs. Claus is pregnant. Like, does that mean this kid is automatically like the heir to the Santa throne? Is that gonna be the drama of the show? Was that the drama of the show? I really don't remember. Like, I don't wanna be Santa Dad, I wanna be a crypto bro.
And I really believe that my son, Cal, has what it takes to be the next Santa.
Also, why is Santa having kids? The elves are his children. I mean, you already have one kid you don't have time for. But because Mrs. Claus is missing her family, they're going to find a way to bring all of them to the North Pole for the birth of the baby and just hide the fact that he's Santa. Somehow. I guess the Santa secrecy umbrella doesn't extend to the in-laws. So Scott is very stressed. There's production issues with toys, there's baby problems, family problems, the entire other kid he continues to neglect that reminded him about the magic of life in the first place. Which is when Cupid mentions the escape clause. Because you can always count on these movies to make another Claus pun. So the escape clause is a way for Santa to give up being Santa. All he has to do is hold his secret Santa snow globe and wish that he had never been Santa Claus at all. Which Jack Frost is super interested in. If he can't hijack Christmas, he's just gonna hijack Santa. But I just have to ask, what the hell do you mean that's all it takes? A major focus of the first movie is about this being a clause, an unbreakable contract. He can't stop being Santa even though he wants to stop being Santa. It is very openly expressed to him that there is no way to undo this. And now there's been 2 movies where he can just not be Santa anymore through random acts like not getting married or literally just wishing it hadn't happened. Like, I get it, now he wants to be Santa and he likes it and it's different, but like, And if he does go through with the clause, it would zap him back to the night it happened so that he doesn't go through with it, I guess. Yeah, man, the Santa Claus franchise was on that time travel cinematic arc before Marvel was. So dumb! But Santa actually believes Jack when he says he just wants to help out around the North Pole so Scott can go situate things with the fam jam, which just leads to his ex-wife coming to help Carol. Because that's just what you want when you're giving birth in a hospital run by elf doctors, your husband's ex-wife around. Though anything that gets Neil and his fabulous sweaters to the North Pole, I'm on board with. So the whole fam jam heads up to the pole, except Charlie, who's going snowboarding? Forget my childhood, we're stuck with Lucy. And until this very moment, I forgot what they did to the North Pole to make it not seem like the North Pole. They try to pass it off as Canada. They're gonna use the Sandman to knock out the in-laws, load them into a plane, and then say, boom, we're in Toronto, or something. And as a Canadian, I'm mildly offended, though I must say, just the random Canadian flags all over are just so funny.
Welcome to Canada! Eh?
Okay, never mind, fuck this, we're done here. It's fine, I'll just console myself with delicious Canadian chocolate. And I guess I was wrong about her not being stoked at his ex-wife's family because she is just so excited to see humans.
Hi! Oh, it's tall people! Not that you're not tall.
Tom Cruise is petite. These people are short. What's the deal with them?
Well, this is what Canadians look like.
I'd come back again just to be insulted more.
Who are you?
Curtis. Eh?
And while the insults to my homeland continue, old Martin Short Jack Frost is sabotaging the entire workshop, including the naughty and nice list. Just destruction everywhere. And I did say the movie gets a little bit horny, and it's not between Santa and Mrs. Claus. Jack Frost is putting the absolute moves on soon-to-be grandma.
You divine little kitten, you.
Ooh.
Jack Frost, nibbling at your nose.
I love it.
Alan Arkin, you were losing your wife to a creep. Also a big year for him, also in Little Miss Sunshine, and of course his magnum opus, Raising Flag.
If Scott is that close to his ex-wife, and you don't find that incredibly threatening, I'm sure it's very nice.
Okay, yeah, I knew someone was gonna take issue with that. But the little sabotages aren't really working, so he's gonna have to up the stakes and try to figure out what that escape clause is all about. By manipulating the answers out of Curtis, who is basically just a little mini Dwight Schrute. So once he figures out how it goes and overhears Santa telling Lucy about his snow globe collection, he spies on them going to visit it. And it's behind this Red Deer energy dispenser, which may seem like it's avoiding copyright, but I feel confident that it does count as Red Bull product placement for how prominently it's featured in different locations and the can design being so unmistakable. Like, why do they have Red Deer in a cupboard? Anyways, I would have assumed that a magical snow globe that could undo Santahood would just be a little bit more concealed and protected, because Jack Frost just followed them right on in there.
That's Uncle Scott's snow globe. You're not supposed to have that.
Okay, I didn't notice this until going back for clips, but the editing in this movie is so bad. The cuts are absurd. God, they made her so annoying either way. She's not an issue. Yeah, just straight up murder. Like I'm sure they're not actually dead, but like theoretical murder. Why does Frozen Neil look like scruffy-haired Michael Cera? But even though the little issues aren't causing a lot of damage for Santa, he does have to spend so much time solving them that it's making him once again forget about the magic and importance of family.
Well, maybe if you weren't working all the time, you might know.
Well, maybe you just don't understand the pressure I'm under.
And I get it, there's all this added stress because this is your busiest time of year and you're having a baby, but like, I don't know, man, package delivery is kind of your expertise. Like, maybe you should have timed the baby to not coincide with Christmas. Because you know what it means when Santa's kid is born on Christmas? The kid doesn't see his dad. But Jack realizes that he can use these mounting tensions and just keeps pushing those buttons to make Santa not want to be Santa anymore.
I know we've had our ups and downs. I just want to say, well,
I know this is a very tense moment with the family feuding, but I just can't help but wonder why the rest of them aren't confused by the Scott Calvin fireplace. I really hate that thing.
Maybe we shouldn't have come.
maybe you're right. Maybe you shouldn't have come.
Maybe I should never have come either.
But after the fight, Jack goes to talk to Santa and manipulates him into saying the magic words.
I wished I'd never been Santa at all. Happy?
Bopping them both back to Christmas Eve 1994, beautiful times. I guess all you have to do is hold on to the person who's going to be magically teleported somewhere and you just get to piggyback. Now, based on the description, I would have assumed that Scott would have just woken up back in his bed in 1994 and just not go outside for Santa when he heard him. But there's a time paradox error potential going on here where two Scott Calvins exist at once. Like if Jack Frost wasn't here, past Scott would do everything as he did, so current Scott would have to try to stop it from happening. So then past Scott would be getting refrained by someone who looked exactly like him, except as Santa? Sorry, I know I'm looking for a lot of logic in a movie that shouldn't have happened. But obviously, Jack nabs the suit and they're both bought back to 2006 where Scott has continued his asshole trajectory, has no family, Charlie hates him, Laura hates him, and Charlie never stopped being a delinquent. And Neil and Laura are divorced? I really don't understand how Scott was holding the fabric of that together, but sure? Oh my god, I hope they don't imply it's because Charlie was too much of a stress. Spoiler alert, they do in fact blame it on Charlie being too much of a little shit for Neil to handle. Hate that. So he and Lucy are at the North Pole, which is now a theme park resort. So Scott heads to track them down on a Santa Frost branded plane. So the whole pole has become a commodity and the elves are miserable to the point that I'm surprised they didn't find one of the other hidden Claus clauses to oust him. At this point, there was 2 outs. They must keep going. No, not my boys! The one thing I will always give them is they just maintain these animatronic reindeer. Now I'm sure you're thinking this is gonna have to be a pretty big struggle to get out of, but no, it's barely an inconvenience. In the first conversation Scott has with Frost, he records Frost saying that he wishes he was never Santa at all with a very obvious pen recorder. A pen recorder that Frost handed to him. So he just came up with that plan in the moment. Like, good for him, I guess. So while everyone's distracted by the Santa Cabaret show, Scott sends Lucy to find the snow globe, and I just refuse to believe he'd be dumb enough to store it in the same place. I really would have assumed he would have smashed it to prevent this from happening, but again, I'm just looking for too much logic here. We can just say it was his arrogance. Also, so much for Scott staying quiet. He Tarzan kicks Frost's ass.
That is an imposter. I'm Santa Claus.
Some say the 21 Jump Street actually based their Peter Pan wire fight on this. That's not true at all. I just made it up.
Let's fly!
But yeah, just like that, the snow globe's in his hand, Scott gets it reset.
You're never gonna get me to say,
I wish I'd never been Santa at all.
And the two of them get bopped back to 1994 to make sure his past self gets the pants as intended.
This guy was huge.
Yeah, well, I'm Santa now, okay?
You don't look like Santa.
Somehow they just don't hear grown men screaming behind a snowman, but that's fine. So this movie is called The Santa Claus 3: The Escape Clause. And the escape clause itself is barely an inconvenience. Scott doesn't have to stew in anything or feel any long-term misery for the choices he made and the loss he suffered. We're getting like a Click Light situation here. Wait, when did Click come out? Click came out the same year. That's so fascinating. And look, Click has all its own issues, but at least it made the man stew on his bad choices. Also, I wouldn't even say that Scott chose it this time. He got tricked into it. He was just having a moment of weakness and stress. And I'm not saying it has to be art or particularly deep or like really driving the idea home, but if there is like one thing I should be able to count on from a kid's movie is well-executed life lessons. I can get more out of a single 20-minute recess episode than this entire movie. But whatever, he makes it back. He's so sorry for the way that he's been acting the past couple days because of his stress.
I missed you so much.
Wait, it's just been a few minutes.
But it only takes a few minutes to see the truth of an entire lifetime.
I don't understand.
Basically says, hey, we got fed up with each other. That's what happens with families. We like to fight on holidays. And decides to tell the in-laws that he's Santa.
It's a little freaky, but you'll get used to it.
Well, that was easy. Alan Arkin's been contrarian every step of the way, and he's just like, oh yeah, cool, Santa.
I'm father-in-law Christmas.
And then just to really drive home the wacky weirdness, they get introduced to all the Legendaries because Charlie brought them to help out around the shop. Cool, like at least Charlie's here now. I hope snowboarding was good.
Hi, bud! Sylvia!
I do not like the way the rabbit said her name.
Uncle Scott!
I found her locked in a closet.
Oh shit, I totally forgot that Neil and Laura are frozen in a closet. And the only way to undo it is if Jack Frost unfreezes himself. Oh no, he'll never do that! But don't you worry, they've been setting up for the entire movie that Lucy has the warmest hugs of all. I hate it so much. Go hug the creepy man, sweetie! My brain being like, oh my god, is she gonna be warm enough to unthaw her own parents? No.
What's she inside?
No, don't you ever make that noise when a child is hugging you, no! And the magic of the warmth of a child's hug actually works. The day is saved, and like, I don't really know what Jack Frost is now, just some baby-eyed, oversized elf-looking dude. But it's happily ever after, all capped off with the end of the story being told, because again, it might not have felt like that. This was all supposed to be Mrs. Claus telling a story. It's so cool that she was like there when Scott had unraveled the fabric of time. But it leaves us with Buddy Claus. And yeah, I remember later on they do give him some like magic Christmas powers with portals or something. Good for him. But we can't end off yet. There hasn't nearly been enough horny behavior, said no one ever.
I'm built for speed and comfort. Oh. Do you like carrot juice?
Where does the juice come from, sir? Maybe you bury those bloopers a little bit later. Yeah, that was the Santa Claus 3. I guess at the very least, they seem to have had a good time making it. It is god-awful, but it makes for a very fun movie to watch in a group setting where everyone is equally horrified by what is being experienced. But I'm just really struggling with the purpose of it outside of just making money. There's no new character development, none of it's interesting. They've locked Lucy into maintaining the behavior of like a 5-year-old when she should be at least 10, weird horny Frost moments that no one questions, and a conflict that literally undoes the fabric of time and space, and it barely has an impact on anyone or anything. But let me know what you guys are thinking down below. There's a very good chance that some of you are younger than me and have like really fond memories of this movie growing up. I was in high school by the time it came out, and that's obviously gonna change my perception on things. If you like the Santa Claus movies, which one's your favorite and why is it one? And if you don't like the first Santa Claus movie, I don't want to hear about it. JK, it's okay not to like it, I just don't agree. That's gonna do it for the video. I'm not entirely sure when this one is coming out, so I'm not sure exactly how close we are to the holidays, but you know, regardless of what you celebrate, how you celebrate, where you celebrate, or where you just happen to be on a day that you don't celebrate at all, I hope you have a great time with friends, with family, with whoever you choose to be with. But thank you all so much for watching. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring the video, and thanks as always to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We are actually getting pretty close to 600K. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. All my social medias are listed down below if you want to keep up with me there. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.